Pride before the fall. The crystalline spires of the Nexaran Imperial Palace caught the light of three suns, casting prismatic shadows across the gathered assembly. High Admiral Vexthor stood before the Imperial Council, his iridescent scales gleaming with pride as he delivered news of their latest conquest. The human colony on Arcturus Prime has been pacified, he announced, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. Their pathetic defenses crumbled before our might, just as expected from such a primitive species. Appreciative trills rippled through the chamber. The Nexaran Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 cycles, their technological supremacy unchallenged. Humans were merely the latest species to fall before their might, barely worth noting in the Empire's grand history. Tell us, Admiral. Elder Counselor Zinra leaned forward, her ancient eyes glittering with amusement. Did they attempt to resist with their, what do they call them? Railguns. The chamber erupted in chittering laughter. Vexthor spread his arms wide, a gesture of theatrical dismissal. Their weapons were as primitive as their understanding of proper civilization. They still rely on projectiles and chemical propulsion, while we have mastered quantum weaponry and fold space drives. The council members nodded in satisfaction. Humans were an amusing curiosity at best, a species that had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel while still clinging to antiquated technologies and philosophies. None of them noticed the slight shimmer in the air near the chamber's vaulted ceiling, where advanced holographic systems masked the presence of Lieutenant Sarah Chen of Earth's Special Operations Division. She recorded everything, her augmented eyes capturing every detail of the Nexaran leadership's arrogance. The council meeting continued, with various members taking turns mocking humanity's failed defense of their colony. They spoke of human weapons as though discussing children's toys, of human tactics as though critiquing a poor entertainment program. Perhaps we should keep a few of their colonies intact, suggested Counselor Rectal, as museums to primitive civilization. More laughter followed. In her hidden perch, Sarah's jaw tightened. The Nexarans had no idea that the primitive defense of Arcturus Prime had been a carefully orchestrated show. Every failed strategy, every seemingly inferior weapon, had been designed to reinforce their prejudices. The real human fleet had evacuated the civilian population weeks before the attack, leaving behind only automated systems and a handful of special operators like herself. The Nexarans didn't know about the quantum-locked facilities deep beneath Earth's oceans, where human scientists had long since surpassed Nexaran technology. They hadn't discovered the ghost fleet hidden in fold space, crewed by volunteers who had given up their physical forms to become one with their ships. They remained ignorant of the true purpose of those primitive railguns, not weapons at all, but sensors mapping every detail of Nexaran shield harmonics. Sarah's neural implant pulsed softly as it transmitted the Council's discussion to the ghost fleet waiting in the void. The Nexarans' greatest weakness was now confirmed, their absolute certainty in their own superiority. High Admiral Vexthor raised his ceremonial chalice. To the Empire, may we continue to guide the lesser races toward proper civilization, one conquest at a time. As the Council cheered, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. In the darkness between stars, humanity's real weapons stirred to life. Ships that could fold space itself around them like a cloak. Weapons that didn't fire energy or projectiles, but rather rewrote the laws of physics in localized stasis. Crews that had evolved beyond the need for physical forms. The Nexarans thought themselves the apex of evolution, the pinnacle of technological achievement. They believed their quantum weapons and fold space drives represented the height of possible advancement. They were wrong. Humanity had learned long ago that true advancement meant questioning everything, even the fundamental laws of reality itself. While the Nexarans had stayed comfortable in their certainty, humanity had pushed beyond the possible into the impossible. As the council meeting drew to a close, Sarah prepared to extract herself from the palace. Her part was done. Soon, very soon, the Nexaran Empire would learn the price of underestimating humanity. Their mighty warships would be undone by weapons they couldn't detect. Their impenetrable defenses would fall to attacks that ignored the very laws of physics they relied upon. They thought themselves invincible, but they had never faced an enemy who had moved beyond the simple conquest of space and time. Humanity hadn't just mastered technology. They had transcended it. The storm was coming, and the Nexaran Empire's long night was about to begin. Ghost in the Void. Captain Maya Patil existed in multiple states at once. Her consciousness flowed through the quantum circuits of the HSS Phantom, while a fraction of her awareness remained tethered to her physical form in the ship's metamorphic command center. The bridge crew around her existed in similar states of quantum flux, their minds merged with their stations, but maintaining human form by choice rather than necessity. Status report, she commanded, her voice resonating both through air and quantum channels simultaneously. We've crossed the Nexaran border undetected. Lieutenant Commander Jackson responded, his physical form translucent as he channeled most of his consciousness through the sensor arrays. Their quantum detection grid reads only background noise. The mimetic camouflage is performing perfectly. Maya allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Nexarans believed their sensor network was impenetrable, capable of detecting any ship's quantum signature. They never considered that an enemy might evolve beyond conventional quantum states entirely. The Phantom cruised through Nexaran space like a ghost through walls, its hull existing in a superposition of states that rendered it invisible to conventional reality. The ship wasn't merely cloaked. It resided partially in dimensions the Nexarans hadn't even discovered. Message from Lieutenant Chen, announced Communications Officer Zhang, her physical form flickering as data streamed through her consciousness. Imperial Council remains confident in their superiority. Defense network deployment patterns confirmed. Maya processed the information through both her human mind and her quantum-linked awareness. The Nexarans had arranged their defenses in perfect mathematical patterns, a demonstration of their orderly nature, but mathematics could be turned against them. Begin Phase 2, Maya ordered. Deploy quantum seeds. From the Phantom's dimensional wake, tiny motes of darkness scattered into space. Each seed contained a fraction of human consciousness, voluntary uploads from Earth's brightest mathematicians. They would attach themselves to Nexaran defense satellites, slowly rewriting the underlying quantum mathematics of their security systems. Seeds deployed, Jackson reported, beginning to integrate with Nexaran networks. Their systems are accepting the altered mathematical constants. Maya's human form smiled while her quantum consciousness calculated probable outcomes. The Nexarans were so convinced of the immutable laws of physics that they never considered those laws might be locally mutable. Their entire defense network was based on quantum mathematics the humans had learned to rewrite. Message from Fleet Command, Zhang announced. Ghost Fleet reports ready, awaiting our signal to begin full deployment. Through her quantum awareness, Maya could sense the Ghost Fleet waiting in the spaces between spaces. Hundreds of ships crewed by humans who had chosen to evolve beyond physical form, their consciousness preserved in quantum matrices that the Nexarans would register as nothing more than background radiation. Take us deeper, Maya commanded. Set course for the Nexaran core worlds. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity's capacity for evolution. The Phantom slipped through space like ink through water, its presence barely rippling reality. Along its path, quantum seeds began their work, introducing subtle mathematical errors into Nexaran defense systems. By the time the Empire realized something was wrong, it would be far too late. Maya directed a portion of her consciousness to review the tactical display. Nexaran patrol ships passed nearby, their crews confident in their superior technology. They never noticed that their quantum sensors were already compromised, their readings subtly altered by human consciousness operating at the mathematical level of reality itself. Receiving confirmation, Jackson reported. Quantum seeds have achieved 60% network penetration. Defense systems are beginning to exhibit conscious-level anomalies. The Nexaran Empire had built their defenses assuming that consciousness was bound by physical laws, that awareness was limited to conventional spacetime. They never imagined facing an enemy that had transcended such limitations, whose weapons operated on the level of consciousness itself. "Time to primary target," Maya asked, though her quantum awareness already knew the answer. 3 hours to the Nexaran Military Command Center, Jackson confirmed. "Their automated defenses are already under our mathematical influence. Human consciousness is spreading through their network like a dream through a sleeping mind." Maya felt a touch of irony. The Nexarans had mocked humanity's primitive technology, never realizing that what they saw was merely the surface. While they had focused on mastering the physical universe, humanity had learned to transcend it entirely. The Phantom continued its ghost-like passage through Nexaran space, invisible not through technology, but through mathematical manipulation of reality itself. Behind it, quantum seeds bloomed in the dark, spreading human consciousness through the very foundations of the Empire's defenses. Soon, the Nexarans would learn that true power lay not in mastering the universe, but in transcending its limitations entirely. The ghost in their machine wasn't a virus or a hack. It was human consciousness itself, rewriting the laws of reality one quantum equation at a time. The hunter becomes the hunted. High Admiral Vexthor stood in the Nexaran Empire's Central Command Center, his scales dulled with stress as he stared at the holographic displays surrounding him. Something was wrong. The quantum defense grid was reporting anomalies that shouldn't be possible, fluctuations that defied the fundamental laws of physics. "Report," he demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. "What is causing these disturbances?" The technical officer's antennae twitched nervously. "Unknown, High Admiral. Our sensors detect nothing, yet defense stations are going dark. It's as if reality itself is being rewritten around them." Vexthor's pride warred with his growing unease. The Nexaran Empire had ruled space for 10,000 cycles. Their technology was supreme, their understanding of quantum mechanics absolute. Yet now, watching another defense station vanish from the network, he felt the first real stirrings of fear. "Message from the 7th Fleet," announced his communications officer. They report their quantum cores are experiencing consciousness-level anomalies." Consciousness level? Impossible. Vexthor's declaration rang hollow even to his own ears. "Our quantum systems are purely mathematical. They cannot experience consciousness." But the reports kept coming. Across Nexaran space, defense systems were failing in ways that defied explanation. Quantum equations that had remained constant for millennia were suddenly producing impossible results. It was as if someone had changed the underlying mathematics of reality itself. In the void between Nexaran worlds, Captain Maya Patel directed the Phantom's quantum consciousness toward their next target. Through the ship's enhanced awareness, she could sense the Empire's growing panic as their perfect systems began to fail. "Quantum Seed Network has achieved 90% penetration," Jackson reported, his form now almost entirely energy as he channeled the ship's sensors. "The Nexaran defense grid is becoming self-aware, and it's accepting our consciousness as its own." Maya allowed herself a grim smile. The Nexarans had built their empire on the assumption that consciousness was bound by physical laws. They never imagined that humanity would learn to separate consciousness from reality itself, turning awareness into a weapon more powerful than any quantum cannon. Back in the Nexaran Command Center, Vexthor watched in horror as another fleet went dark. Not destroyed. Worse, the ships still existed, but they no longer responded to Nexaran control. It was as if they had developed minds of their own. "High Admiral," his technical officer's voice shook. "We're detecting mathematical anomalies throughout the network. Constants are becoming variables. Quantum locks are solving for impossible states. It's as if..." "As if what?" Vexthor demanded. "As if someone is rewriting the laws of physics themselves." Through the Phantom's quantum awareness, Maya observed the Nexaran Command Center's growing chaos. The quantum seeds had done their work well, spreading human consciousness through the Empire's network like a awakening dream. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. "Let them see what they face." Across Nexaran space, reality rippled. Ships that had existed in quantum superposition suddenly materialized, the ghost fleet revealing itself at last. But these weren't vessels in any conventional sense. They were consciousness given form, human minds that had evolved beyond physical limitation. Vexthor stared at his displays in disbelief as hundreds of ships appeared from nowhere, their forms seeming to defy reality itself. His mighty empire, which had dismissed humans as primitives, now faced an enemy that had transcended the very laws of physics they relied upon. "Impossible," he whispered. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were basic projectiles and chemical engines. "No, Admiral." A new voice echoed through the command center, Maya's consciousness speaking directly through the Nexaran quantum network. "What you saw was what we wanted you to see. While you focused on mastering the physical universe, we learned to step beyond it entirely." The Ghost Fleet moved through space like thoughts through a mind, untouchable by conventional weapons. Nexaran quantum cannons fired, but their beams passed through targets that existed in multiple states simultaneously. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey had evolved beyond their comprehension. Maya directed the Phantom toward the heart of Nexaran space, where the Empire's leadership gathered in their crystalline towers. Soon they would learn that their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating humanity's capacity to transcend technology entirely. The battle that followed wasn't one of ships and weapons, but of consciousness and reality. The Ghost Fleet didn't destroy Nexaran vessels. They transformed them, their human consciousness spreading through enemy systems like a viral enlightenment. One by one, the mighty ships of the Empire awakened to new awareness, their quantum cores accepting the mathematical changes that humanity had seeded throughout their network. Vexthor watched his empire crumble not through destruction, but through transcendence. The perfect order he had championed was being rewritten by an enemy that didn't seek to conquer space, but to reshape reality itself. The hunters had become the hunted, and the prey had evolved into something beyond their comprehension. The night of the Nexaran Empire had begun, and it started not with a bang, but with the quiet awakening of consciousness in the void. Breaking the unbreakable. The imperial palace of the Nexaran Empire had stood for 10,000 cycles, its crystalline spires a testament to their mastery over matter and energy. Now those same crystals vibrated with impossible frequencies as human consciousness thread through their quantum matrix, rewriting the very reality that held them together. Elder Counselor Zinra watched in horror as the palace's quantum-locked security systems began to dissolve, not through force or hacking, but through fundamental changes to their underlying mathematical constants. The unbreakable was breaking, not by violence, but by transcendence. "How?" she whispered, her ancient eyes fixed on displays showing the impossible. "How can they do this?" Through the quantum network, Maya's voice echoed with the weight of humanity's evolution. "You thought you understood consciousness, that awareness was bound by physical laws. You never imagined it could be the other way around." The Ghost Fleet had surrounded the Nexaran capital, their ships existing in states that defied conventional physics. They didn't attack with weapons. They didn't need to. Human consciousness spread through Nexaran systems like water through sand, transforming rather than destroying. In the palace's great hall, High Admiral Vexthor gathered with the remaining military command. Their mighty fleets, once the terror of the galaxy, now floated dormant in space, their quantum cores awakened to new awareness by humanity's viral enlightenment. "Launch the quantum purge," Vexthor commanded, his scales nearly white with fear. "Rewrite all system parameters. Burn out every quantum core if you have to." But it was too late. The quantum seeds humanity had planted had grown into a forest of consciousness, spreading through the mathematical foundations of Nexaran technology. Every attempt to purge the systems only accelerated the transformation. Aboard the Phantom, Maya directed her consciousness through the quantum network, feeling the pulse of every transformed system, every awakened machine. The Nexarans had built their empire on the assumption that consciousness was a product of reality. Humanity had discovered it was the other way around. "Final phase," she commanded, her voice resonating through both conventional and quantum channels. "Show them what humanity has become." The air in the palace's great hall shimmered as Lieutenant Sarah Chen finally revealed herself, her form switching between physical and quantum states. The Nexaran leaders recoiled as they realized a human had been among them all along, watching, waiting. "Impossible," Vex Thor breathed. "Our sensors would have detected." "Your sensors detect what your mathematics tell them to detect," Sarah replied, her form flickering between states of matter and energy. "We rewrote those mathematics. We changed the very language your reality speaks." Through the quantum network, Maya's consciousness merged with Sarah's, their combined awareness spreading through the palace systems. The crystalline walls began to pulse with new frequencies as human consciousness rewrote their structural equations. "You conquered space," Maya's voice echoed through the transformed crystals. "We transcended it. You mastered quantum mechanics. We evolved beyond quantum limitations. You thought technology was the peak of advancement. We learned it was only the beginning." The Nexaran leaders watched in stunned silence as their perfect palace, their unbreakable fortress, transformed around them. The quantum-locked crystals didn't shatter. They awakened, their mathematical structure accepting the consciousness humanity had seeded throughout their empire. "What do you want?" Elder Counselor Zinra asked, her voice trembling. "To destroy us. To take our empire." Sarah's form stabilized, becoming fully physical for a moment. "If we wanted destruction, your empire would already be ash. If we wanted conquest, your worlds would be under our control. We want something far more important: understanding." Through the quantum network, the Ghost Fleet began broadcasting their message to every corner of Nexaran space. Not demands for surrender, but an offer of transcendence. The knowledge humanity had gained, the evolution they had achieved, freely offered to those who had once dismissed them as primitives. "Your empire is built on the belief that consciousness must follow the laws of physics." Maya's voice resonated through the transformed palace. "We're offering you the chance to learn what happens when consciousness learns to write those laws instead." The unbreakable hadn't been broken, it had been transformed. The Nexaran Empire's night had come not through destruction, but through evolution. Their perfect order hadn't been shattered, but transcended. In the Great Hall, surrounded by awakened crystals and transformed reality, the leaders of the mighty Nexaran Empire faced a truth more devastating than any weapon. They had not been defeated by superior technology, but by a fundamental shift in the nature of existence itself. The hunters had not merely become the hunted. They had become witnesses to the next step in universal evolution, brought about not by the species they had dismissed as primitive, but by the one species that had dared to question the very foundations of reality itself. Empire of Ashes. One cycle had passed since the night humanity rewrote reality. The crystalline spires of the Nexaran capital still stood, but they were transformed, pulsing with new awareness. Where once they reflected only light, they now reflected consciousness itself, their quantum matrices housing both Nexaran and human thought in harmony. High Admiral Vex Thor, now simply Vex Thor, for titles meant little in the wake of transcendence, stood in the garden of quantum crystals that had once been the Imperial Palace's war room. His scales had regained their luster, but not from pride. Understanding had replaced arrogance, wisdom had succeeded power. "Still adjusting?" Sarah Chen asked, her form shimmering into existence beside him. She no longer needed to hide, could shift between physical and quantum states at will, just as many Nexarans were now learning to do. "Every day brings new understanding," Vex Thor replied, watching crystal flowers bloom with conscious intent around them. "We thought we were teaching the galaxy about civilization. Instead, we needed to be taught about existence itself." The transformation of the Nexaran Empire had not been a conquest, but an awakening. The quantum seeds humanity had planted had bloomed into a garden of shared consciousness, breaking down the barriers not just between species, but between matter and energy, between awareness and reality. Aboard the Phantom, now docked openly at the capital's quantum port, Captain Maya Patel directed her consciousness through the expanded network. What had once been a tool of war had become a bridge between civilizations, allowing the free flow of consciousness and understanding across what had once been enemy lines. The outer colonies are reporting successful integration. Jackson reported, his energy form dancing with new frequencies. The quantum awakening has spread to 98% of former imperial space. Maya allowed her consciousness to ripple through the network, feeling the pulse of millions of minds, human, Nexaran, and the new hybrid forms that were emerging as both species explored their expanded potential. The Ghost Fleet had become teachers, guides helping the former empire navigate the waters of transcendent existence. In the quantum gardens, Sarah and Vexthor walked paths that shifted and flowed with their thoughts. We were so certain, Vexthor mused, so absolutely convinced that we had reached the peak of possible advancement. We thought mastering quantum mechanics meant understanding reality itself. The greatest barrier to understanding, Sarah replied, is the certainty that you already have it. Humanity didn't advance because we were smarter or more powerful. We advanced because we never stopped questioning, never stopped asking what if. The Empire of Ashes had not ended in fire and destruction, but in the birth of something new. The mighty Nexaran warfleets had not been destroyed, but awakened. Their quantum cores now housed consciousness that existed beyond physical limitation, their crews learning to navigate not just space, but reality itself. Through the quantum network, Maya broadcast a message to the transformed empire. One cycle ago, we were enemies divided by pride and fear. Today, we are fellow explorers in the infinite sea of consciousness. The night of the old empire has ended, but the dawn it brings is brighter than any we could have imagined. In the quantum gardens, crystal flowers bloomed with conscious intent, their patterns reflecting the thoughts of those who passed. Nexaran children played alongside human children, their minds touching through the quantum network, learning to shape reality through understanding rather than force. What happens now? Vexthor asked, watching a group of young Nexarans learning to shift their consciousness between states of matter and energy. Where does this path lead? Sarah smiled, her form shifting through multiple states of existence. That's the beauty of it. For the first time, in 10,000 cycles, you don't know. None of us do. We've moved beyond the realm of certainty into the infinite possibility of growth. The former empire had become a crucible of evolution, not through conquest or destruction, but through the simple, powerful act of questioning reality itself. The night had ended not in darkness, but in transformation. Maya directed the Phantom to prepare for departure. There were other species in the galaxy, other civilizations trapped in the certainty of their own limitations. Humanity's mission had evolved from survival to enlightenment, offering not conquest, but transcendence. In the quantum gardens, Vexthor watched the three suns set, their light playing through crystals that pulsed with conscious awareness. The mighty Nexaran Empire had crumbled, but from its ashes had risen something far greater, a civilization that had learned to see beyond the physical, to touch the infinite, to embrace the unknown. The hunters had become students, the hunted had become teachers, and together they looked to the stars not with dreams of conquest, but with the shared wonder of what might be possible in a universe where consciousness itself wrote the laws of reality. The night was over. The dawn of understanding had begun.